Hello, I'm Steve with Silver Homes Real Estate in Spokane, Washington. Welcome to Ask a Realtor. I'm a full-time realtor, and of course, helping people selling, investing, and buying homes is my focus every day. But there's so much more to life than just selling real estate 24/7. So I created this series with the goal of enriching others. I'll introduce you to colleagues who can educate and share their knowledge in real estate-related topics. I'm going to introduce local Spokane business people, as well as interesting characters and their stories. My hope is that you learn something, see things through a new lens, and possibly be entertained along the way. So, let's get started. So this week we have a great guest, Adam Noone with Summit Funding. His background in residential lending and knowledge are valuable to anybody thinking about buying, investing in, or even selling real estate. Adam, thanks for joining the show today.
Yeah, thanks Steve for having me.
Great. So before we jump into the meat of the topic, let's get to know you a little bit better. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Southern California, right outside of the Pasadena area. I don't always miss it. I do miss In-N-Out burgers though, and some of my family and friends.
Animal style.
That's right. Animal style is the only way to go if you're getting In-N-Out. I did move up here about 9 years ago, so I like to tell people moving to the Inland Northwest. I moved here before moving here was cool, and so I did get in before the rush, the current rush. I did live in Wisconsin for a couple years actually before I moved here. I moved out there, knew some friends, and wound up working and living there. So then I came to Spokane. Love it.
Great. So what do you do when you're not lending?
It's family. I have 3 little boys. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and my wife and I are very busy. So when I'm not here and I'm not in the office working, I'm at home hanging out with the kids. So playing soccer, watching shows, playing with the toys in the basement, so we're always having fun. We're always out doing stuff. So
yeah, it's interesting with little kids though. You realize at a certain point when you start buying toys, you start thinking about, okay, how engaged will I be with this toy?
Right.
3-4 weeks down the road,
right.
And it kind of changes decisions at the store.
We have toys. We have this whole basement. We have a finished nice basement. We have this whole room, and it's just filled with toys. And I don't even know where these toys came from. I think they multiply. If you're a parent out there, you can agree with me. Toys just seem to multiply out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
So we haven't even bought them. I go down there and throw them away, and they double up again. So I don't know how that works, but oh yeah, we have plenty of toys.
Yep. Look in the sock drawer. You'll find them, right, with the lost socks.
Oh yeah.
That's probably where they come from.
I have found toys in the bathtubs and in our clothing drawers. I have found toys in the kitchen cabinets. I mean, I don't even know where these. It's the Lego blocks. They get everywhere.
Absolutely. So this is a tip to you out there. If you do have little kids, every once in a while, pick up your vents and see if there are any toys in there, because somehow they always end up on the other side of the vent.
Oh yeah, especially if you got the little ones. My 1-year-old will take stuff and go throw it down there just to see what it does. So, lift up the vents for sure.
Absolutely. Great. Now let's turn to the mortgage lending process and learn more about your experiences you've had.
Yeah, so I came into mortgage lending almost 3 years ago, and before that I was in auto sales and finance, and before that I worked as a account manager for health insurance and managed a bunch of groups and managed their billing and everything like that. So I've kind of dealt with money and lending for a long time, and I've looked at a lot of credit reports and everything else. So when I got my own home loan several years ago, I was really interested in the process, and it seemed like it was a better fit for me. And so I wound up interviewing and looking at coming in, and so I entered the mortgage business, like I said, about almost 3 years ago.
Great.
Yeah.
Been successful, obviously.
It's been great. I would say that we picked up the pace really fast. I didn't try and reinvent the wheel, so I just tried to make relationships and try and bring a good level of value to the table. Try not to do anything that's too flashy or fast or slick. And I feel like in the mortgage lending world, when you're trying to get a mortgage, is really best if you actually stick with professionals that know what they're doing, that can help guide you through the process, rather than just here's the bottom dollar, here's the lowest thing, and then you never hear from them again, which happens unfortunately a lot. So we tried to focus on the relationships and the people and the clients and the experience, and it seems to be returning pretty well for us. So
yeah, and as real estate lending is pretty much the same thing. As people will say that if you make it past your 3rd year, you've done it, and you'll be great, move ahead. And typically people who fail. It's going to be within that first year and a half.
Absolutely.
But you're right. There are a lot of people out there who, are just looking for, the quick sale, the quick loan, so that they spend as little time as possible, yet they get paid at the end. And what I've learned in both our businesses really comes down to customer service.
It does.
And it's how you take care of the customer, how you listen to them, answer questions, explain things, because some people have never done this. First time. Very scary. And other people have done it 10 times, yet they don't understand the process. You need to walk them through as well. So a lot of active listening to understand your client and understand what you need to explain, and ask a lot of questions, get a lot of verification.
Well, and one of the things that's important too is that, a lot of people come into this industry. There's a lot of brand new realtors, a lot of brand new mortgage lenders. And again, they're really just looking, how do I get paid? And so the client kind of becomes the means to the end, rather than the end being, did the client get well taken care of? And so, new agents, new lenders, a lot of the times they come in and they try and reinvent the wheel. How do I get as many clients as possible, as fast as possible, and it doesn't matter who I leave in my wake. And so that's something we tried to not do. We tried to not come in and just shotgun approach, the industry. We tried to really take care of people more laser focused. If you're a client, you're the only client that matters to us right now. Let's take care of you on a high level, rather than just trying to take care of a lot of people. It's that old saying, you don't want to be miles wide and an inch deep. We wanted to be less wide and really deep, and that was kind of the focus of our business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What I find, and I tell people as well, and that my motivation is not the commission in any way, shape, or form.
No.
That my goal at the end of the deal, end of the transaction, is that they are I've overachieved what their expectations were, and that they're so happy they refer me to friends and family.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not the commission, and that I always work on their timetable. It's not my timetable. And it's a very different approach. And a lot of other people, they want to go as quickly as they can. They want somebody to make an offer on the first, second house they saw and close as quickly as possible. And that's not good for the client.
No. And you and I both see it, because they call me and they say, hey, can I get a pre-approval letter for this house? And I think you and I have some side conversations. They're like, are we sure they want this one? And and that's the thing in this industry. It's really a lot like even buying a car or buying any kind of big ticket item. There are companies out there that will do it fast and slick and try and give you, you might get the transaction, you might get it done, but then you're miserable about it. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, two large mortgage determining companies, they do a lot of the guidelines and stuff like that. They did a recent study this year, and they found that 65% of all people that got a mortgage and went through this and buying a home had a terrible experience. And it was not good. 65%. That means out of every 10 home buyers, 6 to 7 of those home buyers would say that they had a terrible experience. And so I think some of that, not always, but some of it is directly related to who they work with. If you're working with someone that's really just trying to make stuff happen, we call it in the sales industry commission breath. They're just trying to get a commission. They're just trying to get paid. You're more than likely going to be one of those 6 to 7 people. If you work with someone that says, hey, listen, I'm not interested in getting paid at the end. I want to make sure you're well taken care of. The paycheck comes second, but again, that's not the end. It's saying, I'm going to take great care of you. And if I take great care of you, you're going to be in that 2 to 3 clients that had a great experience. I believe in this industry that it's important for you as a client, or even as a real estate agent, as a lender, whoever you are watching this video, that you work with people that you know, like, and trust. If you work with people that you know, like, and trust, the commission's a secondary thought, because you're getting a great level of service and a great experience. I don't know about you, and I know Steve and I are the same way, but I'm more interested in you coming back to me in the future, bringing your friends and family to me, saying, this is my mortgage guy, this is my real estate agent, than I am in just trying to get it done and I get paid, and then unfortunately I never hear from you again because I give you a bad level of service. That's not how we do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I think about too, as an independent business person, is that obviously we don't work for each other, but we're business partners, and we refer people back and forth. And the experience they get with you reflects back on me.
Exactly.
And if I send them over to somebody that had a bad experience, that's not going to be a good reflection on me. So it's always important for me to partner with people. And we both had the experience where I may have had a client come to me first, had a different lender, maybe an online lender, an e-bank, something like that. and wasn't having a good experience. And I listened to the client and I suggested, well, maybe you should talk to somebody locally. And here are some people I know, and here's Adam. And it's really changed things where they've changed. And that goes from a realtor's perspective as well. If you're not getting what you're asking for, or you're just being served, houses to go look at that don't match, get out of that. It's a bad relationship. Nobody wants to be stuck in a bad relationship.
Exactly. And I see it all the time as a lender, just the same that Steve sees as a realtor. Clients come and say, it's hard to get a hold of our lender. We don't know what's going on with our loan, all of that. Those are all major concerns. And then I see it as a lender when people come to me and they say, I can't get a hold of my realtor. I'm the one always sending houses to him to look at.
Right.
He's not available to show me houses when, those are major red flags in this industry. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in this industry that, they are focused, like I said, on the end result, which is the paycheck, or they're focused on what's best for them. And you don't want to find that. You want to find someone who has your best interest in mind, that you have a real estate agent, like Steve, that's going to go above and beyond, be there when you call, be able to help you with stuff and advise you correctly. You want the same thing out of a mortgage lender. Anybody else, they might be doing their business that way, but if you don't feel like you're getting a great level of service, definitely give us a call, or try and find someone who is going to give you a great level of service.
Yep, exactly. So let me ask you this: with so many different products out there, how do you determine which product is best for a prospective buyer? And do they ever come to you with an expectation or suggest the program that they think they should be in?
Yeah, we see it all. So we see some clients that come to us and they've got kind of a general idea of what they qualify for. Some clients have done some research online. Some clients have even talked to other lenders, and so they kind of know what they're at. And then we also get a lot of clients that come to us and they go, I have no clue what's going on. I just want to buy a house.
Yeah. And
we say there's a million things that go into trying to determine what program is right for you, what the interest rate is right, how do we structure your loan, how do we deal with closing costs, how do we deal with, there's so many things that go into that. And that's really why, the point and click, online lenders, the online banks, stuff like that, the everything where you don't put a person into the mix, point, click, get mortgage, all that kind of stuff, is very difficult to do, because you might be able to get into a ballpark of what might work for you. But again, we don't shotgun the ballpark. We're not coming at it and saying, sure, in that ballpark that might work. Right. You want to work with someone that's going to be laser focused and say, this is the right program and here's why. And if you don't have a mortgage lender who's explaining to you why that's the right program and what the next step is after that, my team, we even take it a step further than that. We'll explain to you why this is the right program, why it's the right program for you right now, and what the future goals are and the future right steps are going to be to maybe get into a better program, or to be able to capitalize on your equity, or anything like that. So you want, with programs, there's a lot of programs out there. You want to be able to know with certainty which is the right for you, not just in the ballpark. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of times, even though it's a longer process and it takes more time to educate people, I prefer when I get somebody who doesn't have a clue, because then you can kind of explain the whole process to them, and they don't come in with any preconceived notions and misinformation from somebody else. Although you can re-educate and correct those things, it's really nice to take somebody who has no clue, completely green.
Yeah.
And it's a rewarding experience too,
it is.
to bring them all the way down the path. And I think when you do that, they have a tendency then to become customers for life, because you've helped them, you've educated them. And it's a lot of fun. You learn from them, they learn from you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's cool to see that too. And it's cool to see clients that come in that have kind of that blank slate, because then you can build with them what's going to work for, their money, what's going to work for their future, and we get to build that up. I do see in this industry, I do have clients that come in and they'll tell me, hey, I qualify for a conventional loan. And then we run the credit, we look at their stuff, and we go, where'd you see that you qualified for a conventional loan? Oh, I read it online. Those ones are a little bit more difficult, because now we have to explain what the guidelines are and why conventionals are certain ways. Right. And, so here's what I would say. Most mortgage lenders, I think that there's an idea of what's easy and there's an idea of what's right. What I always try to focus on is what's right. It might not be easy, but it's what's right. So what I try to focus on is if we have to sit down and work with you and say, let's try and work on getting your credit up a little bit. Let's try and work on getting a little bit more money in the bank account. Let's try and work on, whatever the budgeting is or whatever the structure is or something like that. It may not be easy. You may already qualify for a loan right now and you could go get a loan. But I don't know if it's in your best interest just yet, especially with maybe just a few tweaks, and we can get you qualified for something a lot better. So that's what I try to focus on is what are the small tweaks we can make in your structure to make you qualified for a better loan, better options, something that's going to save you more money. If you don't have someone who's going to sit down and do a full portfolio with you like that and look at all your options and what possibilities you have, you need to get a better mortgage lender. Definitely give my team and I a call. If you don't know my info, click on the link and message Steve and he'll get you in touch with me. Because even if you don't use us, we still want to put you in a position where, again, we do what's right and not just what's easy.
Yeah. As I tell every client I meet, 95% of the work I do is pro bono. It's a lot of information. Even if you're working with another realtor and you have a question, you can always ask.
Exactly.
There's never any shame in that. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Spokane's been a seller's market for the past few years, and it looks like it's going to stay that way for the future, for the foreseeable future. How do you think that impacts a buyer as they're getting ready to make an offer on a house?
One thing that I've really tried to study over the last several years is the market. What's going on in the market? How does the market work? What's happening in the bond markets and the stock markets and the real estate markets and all of that. I look like a big old, former football player and big old brute and knucklehead, but I'm kind of a nerd for the numbers, so I go on, I read this stuff and I look at it and, my wife, I think she's ready for me to get a set of glasses and a pocket protector and everything. I'm a nerd nerd at heart,
I don't want to buy you for Christmas.
Yeah. So for me, I study this stuff and I'm very fascinated by it. If you look at Spokane and Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, this whole area, it's growing rapidly. I think I've seen reports that say it's one of the #1 places. Yeah. I saw #4 just recently by, I think, Yahoo. This area is growing and expanding like crazy. I work with several builders and people that work for some of the big building companies, and they're saying they're just building as fast as they can to try and keep up. There's such a demand here.
Right.
And so, one thing to look at is basic economics. So supply and demand, right? We have a big demand for housing here in Spokane, and we have a very little supply. So even though the economy is, which we all know, there's got to be a recession at some point. We've been in a very long bull market, which means that the market's been very, very, very strong. A recession is going to happen. Who knows when it's going to happen? Could be next year, could be the year after, but a recession will happen. When that happens, a lot of people, jobs will be at risk, money's going to be tight, it's going to be a recession. I don't think there's going to be a housing crash though. There's no bubble to pop per se. There's no overinflation of inventory, no overinflation of, like mortgage lenders are not just easily handing out loans. And so because of that, we're going to really go into a more leveled, I think, recession. When that happens, you're still going to have a supply and demand issue here in Spokane, which is there's a lot of people living here and not enough inventory.
Right.
So the market's going to continue to be real strong with sellers. Now, let's say it isn't, right? This is where I become kind of an expert in this field, is that I just go back and look at history. Even the housing crash in 07, 08, 09, during that time, a lot of people had high prices on their house. They lost a bunch of money in the crash, and everybody panicked and they said it's the end of the world, and the meteor's going to strike and the Death Star's coming out of the sky and we're all going to blow up and die. No, what happened was everybody lost a bunch of value on their house, and the people that stayed put in the houses, a couple years later, it was back up to where it was, and now they're up even higher in equity. It's the same in the stock market. It's the same when you invest. You ride out the waves of the ups and downs, but it usually always goes like this up over time. So I think here in Spokane, it's a great time to buy. It's a great time to invest. Very few people, I think, have the mentality of, I'm going to wait for a bubble crash, which I try and educate some. Not all of them believe me. Yeah. But I think it's still a great time to buy because you're still going to do this over time. So even if you bought it here versus here, remember, it's still going up. Yeah. So it's a good time to buy.
Yeah, and with people who will talk about that a bubble has to happen or has to be a crash, everybody has an opinion. If you're really concerned about that, talk to a lender, talk to a realtor, talk to multiple lenders and realtors. Yeah. Don't talk to your friends.
No.
because people will tell you, what they think, and it's misinformation. And the thing that I see the Spokane in this area has going for it, and regardless where we show up, we're always in the top 5 to 10 on any list lately. That we are undervalued as far as the national average goes.
Oh yeah.
And the quality of life is well above the national average.
It's a great quality.
So it's a great balance to have with more things coming in Amazon and other companies. So Spokane's a pretty great place to be, and it's just it should continue to appreciate. For a while, which is great.
So just to be clear, you're saying we shouldn't talk to our great uncle who last home purchase he made was 45 years ago?
Probably not.
Okay, so he might not be an expert. Okay.
Definitely spend time with great uncle.
You spend time with them.
Just
yeah.
ask stories, just not these kind of stories.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let me ask you this: what's the most unusual situation you've come across in as a lender, and how did that play out?
Oh man, we've had some crazy stuff. We've had houses that we look at, and we had no clue if we could even get it done. We've had. I've had multiple clients that get all the way up to closing and all of a sudden lose their job. All right, so there's actually a good friend of mine. I won't name names. He knows who he is. If he watches this, he'll know exactly who he is. He's a good guy, great guy. His wife is awesome. So they're buying their first house. They're all excited, and he calls me and says, "Hey, just a heads up, the week before we're closed, we actually have a trip planned to Mexico." And I said, "Okay, cool. Like, no big deal. Like, we really don't need much from you, but take a computer just in case, and and have someone at the house if we need a document." So we had it all set up. We're ready. He goes off to Mexico. We go to pull the final, stuff right before we close, final verification of employments and stuff like that. And we call the lady, and the lady says, "I'm sorry, who?" I said, "Well, so-and-so, and he works here." And she said, "Oh, okay, hold on." And she comes back and says, "All right, I had to go pull his file. It'd be easier to find if he still worked here." I said, "Wait a second, time out. He doesn't work there?" She goes, "No, it looks like he quit last week." Wait a second, hold on a second. So we call the client. I call the client and I said, "Hey," and he's answering in Mexico. He's having a great time. I said, "Did you quit your job?" And he goes, "Kind of." And I go, "Kind of? What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, yeah." And I go, "Well, why'd you quit your job?" He's like, "Because I was going to Mexico and I thought maybe when I got back I'd just try to get another job." Oh, you knucklehead. So we talked through it. He called his old boss. He actually got his job back. He said, "I made a mistake. I'm so sorry." He got his job back.
Groveling's good.
Groveling is great in those situations. Grovel all day. He got his job back. We went back to work. We had the evidence he was back to work. Everything was good. We were able to close on his house. My favorite part of this is the guy comes back up. He comes back up from Mexico, and through the whole signing, his wife is just staring at him, and he's just like, I know I messed up. I know." And I said, "Don't do this to me ever again, man." So he just actually, about a year later, we actually just closed on his refinance. Which, by the way, we can talk about. Refinances are a great thing to do right now. The market's really good. The rates are low. He just closed on his refinance, and I think they're saving like $250 just a year later because the rates are down.
That's right.
And we're able to get rid of mortgage insurance. So we have some tricks there. But
So
he's a great guy, but I won't name names. But if you're out there doing this, don't quit your job before closing.
That's a good moral of the story. And don't buy a new car, motorcycle, boat, any big purchase.
I've had that too.
Until you close.
Oh yeah, I've had the motorcycle purchases. I've had the Home Depot credit card where they rack up $5,000. Oh yeah, we've seen it. Just
absolutely.
I always tell my clients, I say, try to be very financially boring through this process until it's done. Then you can go do what you want. But through this process, stay boring.
Absolutely, boring's good sometimes.
That's right.
Go talk to great uncle about being boring, right?
Go hang out with your great uncle through this process and be boring with him. Let us do our job. We'll get you the house. Then after that, you can go get a new car. We're okay.
Car, boat, whatever.
Yeah.
Thanks again to Adam Noone with Summit Funding for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed his knowledge and information on lending, and he has some great stories as well. And thank you for watching Silbar Homes. If you have any questions or need any assistance with buying, selling, or investing, please reach out anytime. Thanks for watching and have a great day.